Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Mario Pichardo, and in this video, we're going to be talking about disliking tendency. I have some examples up here. Let's just jump right into it. So, disliking tendency, we'll just jump straight into an example. I find that examples are easier for people to understand than the definition. One of Aesop's fables, the lesson was, examples are better than precepts. So, if we have a teacher's example, if you dislike someone who's trying to teach you something, who's trying to bring a lesson to you, um, what's going to happen? You're not going to listen. I mean, just take a second, just think about it. You're not going to listen to what they have to say, or you're not going to put as much weight to the words that this person has to share with you, right? I mean, if I dislike you, I'm going to immediately start to blot out everything you say or think that you don't know as much as you do. But what if that person does? What if that person's ideas actually have a lot of sense to them? Well, we're going to miss out on that, right? So, the first example is to say that when you dislike someone, you immediately put yourself at a disadvantage. Why? Because you're not listening. There's information that you're just missing out on. Now, you could not like them because of how they treated you before. You could have had that negative association with them now because maybe they yelled at you. Maybe it was that they gave you a bad grade. Maybe it's that you just had another bad example, but that's always something to pay attention to. Listen, just because you don't like somebody doesn't mean that that person isn't sensible in their thinking, or that something that they told you before what doesn't hold value for you today. That's one of those things that a lot of people fall into the habit of not realizing. Second example is sales. This example is really okay, what do you guys think about the field of sales? Not a lot of people like sales. Not a lot of people like thinking about the work that it entails. Sometimes people think that, this is really a lot of work. I feel more comfortable with the marketing than being in people's face. Talking to them about money, having to teach or kind of get that point across. The reason that I use sales is because a lot of people think that, well, if you're really good at one thing, that'll be enough to kind of carry the package all the way through. And I think that the thing that people are missing there is that, listen, if you dislike it, then we have a tendency to belittle the importance of it. In other words, disliking doesn't just work for people, it also works for things or concepts or ideas. So if there's if we don't want to learn sales, if we don't want to go to people's doorstep, we had really bad experiences with it, we might discount the importance of that step. We still need somebody on our team to be able to go out there and to really help or do things with someone else. Because if we just focus on the marketing, if we just focus on the accounting, we put most of our emphasis on everything else, but we don't put our emphasis into actually closing a deal with the person, getting them to buy our product, then what do we have? The third example here is for economics, and that's really just to say that when it comes to learning a new discipline, just like in sales, if we don't like economics, so we never studied it, that doesn't mean there isn't a lot in economics that could help us with our worldly understanding, with our understanding of how money is spent. One of my big examples that I talk about in my podcast is, that idea that if you are not, a lot of people want to push something like the Green New Deal or universal health care, but they don't understand the basics of economics. And it could be because you're not good with economics, you don't like thinking about that kind of thing, so you kind of shy away from it, or maybe just never had a time to turn to it. But for people who, don't, who discount something for whatever reason, you're going to be missing some pretty important stuff. I mean, anybody who did understand, who went to economics, who took economics 101, should very easily be able to distinguish the fact that, like a $15 an hour minimum wage hike is going to have a very negative impact on a lot of businesses. And that's a really big deal. We really have to wait and say, are we willing for all these businesses to be terribly affected? That means more layoffs. We want people to be paid a minimum wage, but we're not willing to bear the cost of what that's going to mean. Or we want to give healthcare to everybody, but we don't actually understand what that healthcare will actually look like. It doesn't mean that the system's going to run the way that it is now. People are going to have to wait a lot longer on lines. The care is going to be dramatically decreased in quality. And so it's kind of a situation where no one can get into the doctors. No one can get good quality care, even the ones that do get into the doctors, unless you have crazy sums of money. And so the interesting thing is that what we end up with is a system where we actually have less under socialism than we would have had under capitalism, which is the great irony. And also that, in fact, the people the people actually become even poorer so that they can all be equal. In other words, everyone is torn down to the lowest rung, and now there's just a huge swath where there's the ultra rich, and then there's everybody just at the bottom. And so that's an economic reality. But if we don't like having to study economics, having to go into economics, just like the teacher in the sales, we kind of miss out on a lot of information there. So the practicality of the case here is that, well, if you're working with a coworker, right, but you don't like your coworker, how much information or how much productivity, how much effectiveness are you going to lose because of that relationship there? If you don't like them, are you going to trust them? If you hate them, are you going to want to work with them? And how is that going to impact the business? And that's just to bring it into a more kind of practical level for the everyday person, is to say that this tendency is all about disliking and hating. In contrast to the other video that we did, that was about liking tendency, and is to say that, hey, listen, while that stuff holds true, the opposite is also true. If you don't like something, then you're leaving yourself up with a lot of blind spots, and that's important to not only realize, but to know where your blind spots are. And one of the worst things you can do is not know, is to think you know something. Warren Buffett says this: to think that you know something that you actually don't know, that they actually really don't understand. That's even worse than all of the things that you don't know. So that's just something to share with you guys. I hope that helps. I hope that you find this one helpful. There, again, disliking tendency, there's a little bit of nuance in it, in that you have to really look at the ways that it goes out, all the different kind of branches of what it actually means. Yes, it means disliking and hating, and how that means that you're going to belittle good things about people and exacerbate their not good qualities, but it also can affect other areas of your life, and that's really the point that we're trying to get to here. So if you guys found this video helpful, please feel free to hit the like button and the subscribe button. Feel free to share it with your friends and family, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Peace.